Success even in chaos. Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. So we all have a little bit of chaos in our lives these days, living here in the US, coming from a lot of different areas. I want to show you how to attain a big goal to achieve success even in chaos. The key is find one element, what I call the stable element, that always works even in chaotic situations. So in a chaotic situation, you can usually find one element that is stable, that you can use, that you can take actions from, that will always work. And when you're trying to become successful and achieve a big goal, the stable element that always works, even in chaos, is stepwise refinement. If you have a computer science degree, you might recognize that. What this means is, even in a chaotic situation, if you have a big success goal, if you divide it into small pieces and you work at one piece at a time, it will always succeed over time. You basically say, there's a little bit of chaos either in my life, my work situation, my environment, in the country, but I want to attain a big goal of success. How do I do it? The stable element is using this technique, stepwise refinement, dividing a large goal into small pieces and then only working on one piece at a time and forgetting about all the rest of them. So as an example, most of us have been through 12 years of school. In the first grade, eventually we had to learn how to read. That was part of the process of going to school. That was a big goal in first grade. Most of us did not know how to read, right? Some of us did, but most of us did not. That big goal, how to read, had to be broken into small pieces. Step one, we had to learn the alphabet. We had to learn the letters. So we didn't worry about reading. We didn't worry about sentences, nouns, verbs, paragraphs, books. All we cared about was learning the alphabet. We had to drill on learning the individual letters. That was step one. Step two, we learned small, short, simple words. We combined the alphabet, what we learned in the letters, into short words, small words. That was step two. Step three, we combined the words into very short, simple sentences. So we started with a big goal, reading. Step one, learn the letters. Step two, learn very simple words by combining letters. Step three, combine the words into very short, simple sentences. Step four, combine sentences into paragraphs. Step five, ultimately we were able to read. But this works regardless of how chaotic the environment is. In some public school classrooms, there are fairly chaotic situations sometimes, but students still learn how to read if they break this big goal, learning how to read, into small steps. Learning how to paint, same thing. If you're learning how to be a house painter or an artist, you have to start with the basics. Colors, mixing colors, brushes, how to apply the paint in different ways. So learning how to be a dentist, that's a huge goal. It starts with learning the alphabet, and you end up being able to fix people's dental problems. Big goal, lots of steps that led up to that huge goal. That works even in chaos. So the stable element to achieve a big success goal is stepwise refinement, dividing a big goal into small steps. Learning how to write software. Stepwise refinement actually is used frequently in software. I had a lab partner in college. Our professors would often give us very ambitious, large programs we had to write in a fairly short amount of time. One lab partner in particular used to freak out at the size of the program. He would focus on the whole program. He would say, there's no way we can write a program like this in this short amount of time. I had to talk him down from the ledge several times and say, we're not going to write the whole program. We're not going to write it today. We're not going to write it this week. We're going to break this program down into a bunch of small steps. We're going to work on one small piece at a time, and then we're going to finish that one piece, and then we're going to move on to the next piece. So some people freak out about big goals. Now, let's say that you wanted to own a holding company. Like Berkshire Hathaway is a holding company. They own 80 companies, I believe. Let's say you wanted to create a holding company that owns 10 businesses. You're not going to be able to do that in one day, 1 week, or 1 year. That's going to take breaking that large goal into small steps. The first step would be learning how to recognize when a company is successful. Does it have positive cash flow? Is it earning money? You would then either create or buy a tiny business that has positive cash flow. That would be step one for a holding company. Learning how to get your first 100 customers. You're not going to do that in one day or even 1 week, maybe not even in 1 year. You're going to have to break that big goal, 100 customers, into steps. And the first steps will be step one, get one customer. So that's how you can achieve a big success goal Stepwise refinement, breaking it into small pieces. So here's how to proceed. Here's how to apply this. I had to teach this to my lab partner because he always focused on the huge goals, thinking, that's a huge program. That really does a lot of things. How can we do this in this short a period of time? So this is how you do it. This is how to proceed. Set your big goal, what the big goal is, divide it into 10, 20, some number of pieces. And the thing about this step is, the key thing about dividing a big goal into steps is you don't really know necessarily in the beginning how many steps to divide the big goal in. For example, if you talk to a dentist and you ask them to write down the number of steps they took to become a dentist, that would be a tough, it would take them some effort. First, I had to learn the alphabet. Then I had to learn math. I had to learn physics. I had to learn chemistry, right? So it's the same at the beginning of trying to achieve a big goal. We need to divide a big goal into steps, but you have to leave yourself open because there will be some learning as you start on this, working on this big goal. There will be some learning as to the number of steps that's actually going to be required. So with this goal, the first 100 customers, this is pretty simple. Step one is going to be, let's figure out how to find one customer, right? So in the beginning, when you divide a big goal like a holding company, if you want to start a holding company and own 10 businesses, you would divide that into a certain number of steps, and then you would start working on step one, and you would say, did I divide this process into enough small chunks? Or can I combine, maybe I divided this into too many steps. Maybe I can combine some of these and shorten the process. But the key is set your big goal, divide it into steps, and then start working on step one and forget about every other step. With my lab partner, that's kind of what we had to do. We would start working on it. There would be some anxiety on his part. This is such a small piece. How are we possibly going to finish in time if we're only working on this small piece, right? We're only going to work, though, on step one. I had to tell him, look, just forget about the rest of it. Let's work on step one. Let's make some progress. When you finish step one, congratulate yourself. And you will have some confidence, a sense of accomplishment, that you're learning how to make progress towards this big goal, right? Now move on to step two. When we were learning how to read, after we learned the alphabet, we started combining the letters into short, simple words. Step two is not going to be that much more challenging than step one, but it will reinforce what you learned in step one. If you're trying to get 100 customers, you'd start off getting a first customer. You would take what you learned and then try to get a second one and see if everything you learned about the first customer is going to work for getting the second customer. It may not. You may have to learn more. So work on step two and forget about every other part of this big goal. You have a big goal. It's exciting, but just forget about it. Just work on step one, then step two. Once you finish step two, celebrate that success. And now start step three. And so you get the idea. So conceptually, this is a very simple process, but when you're setting a big goal, a big exciting goal, like I want to have 100 million in net worth, it can seem pretty daunting because it's not clear how to get there starting from very little, right? You have to break that goal into small steps, and you have to be patient with yourself. So here's an example. Let's say we want to start a service business. I have more than one relative who did this, but let's say you wanted to start an HVAC service business, air conditioning, heating, refrigeration. The first goal, a big goal, the first large goal might be to get 20 repeat customers. Now, this is not 20 customers who hire you once every 5 years. This is 20 customers who are going to call you for work repeatedly throughout the year. And that means commercial customers. So when one of my relatives started his HVAC business, his first customer was a grocery store. And they called him and called him and called him throughout the year. That was a stable, repeat customer. So step one, he got his first commercial customer. So who else might he target to get repeat customers? Flower shops use refrigerators. Grocery stores do. Apartment complexes use air conditioners, right? So you get the idea. So for step one, he divided getting 20 repeat customers into only getting one customer. There was a lot of learning. This particular relative of mine, it took him 2 years to really get that service business off the ground, to the point where, because his wife was working, where her income was not such an important part of their ability to put food on the table. In the beginning, his first 2 years, it took a lot of effort to get enough repeat customers so the business was viable. So step two is to get a second repeat customer. Step three might be, okay, we know how to get one customer. We tried everything we learned on getting that first customer with getting a second customer, and we learned even more. Now let's up the bar. Let's try to get 5 customers or maybe 3 customers based on what we learned with step 1 and step 2. So stepwise refinement means allowing yourself to forget about the big goal. You have the big goal, but you kind of like forget about the big goal and you only work on a little piece, right? It takes some discipline. So some of the discipline you need to make this work is you need to take it easy on yourself. When my relative did step 1, he had setbacks, challenges, disappointments, surprises, because whenever you're trying to achieve a big goal, and even if you divide it into steps, everything is pretty new and you have a learning curve, right? And you have to be patient with yourself. You have to take it easy on yourself. And if you feel frustrated sometimes, take a step back, take a day off. But go easy on yourself because you have a learning curve. It's a brand new thing. You're trying to get to $100 million in net worth. It's not going to happen next week. It's not going to happen in the first year, right? It's a process. It's stepwise refinement. So you also need to have patience. And this brings up an important thing that comes up with this technique. This is a technique, stepwise refinement. It worked for my lab partner, my anxious lab partner who always freaked out because he thought the professor gave us too much work. And it was never the case. We were always able to finish well within the deadline. But when you identify a big goal that you want to achieve and you divide it into 10 steps or 20, like I said in the beginning, you may not know how granular you need to divide that big goal into. How many steps do you really need? Do you need 10? Like if you would have told a dentist, look, you're going to be a dentist, it's going to take 10 steps. That's not realistic. But in the beginning, do you know that? Not really. You have to actually start down the path. In learning to be a dentist, you could say at the beginning, I'm going to do this in 10 steps. When you start working on step 1, you have to allow yourself to say, I'm going to have to adjust the number of steps. Looks like this could be 50 steps, not 10, right? So in the beginning, you're not going to necessarily know how many steps to divide this big goal into. So 2 things are very common when you apply this technique. 2 things can happen. The first thing is, if you divide a large goal into small steps that are too small, you might feel bored. You might say, I'm not making any progress. These steps, I am achieving something, but it's such a small amount, it's not keeping me engaged and interested. It's an exciting. So what you would need to do there is maybe you divided your big goal into too many increments, into too many steps. You may need to reduce the number of steps, make each step a little bit bigger. The opposite can happen too. Like my lab partner, if you look at the big goal that you're trying to achieve, and each step is too big, you can still feel overwhelmed. Because that's the main thing that happens when people want to achieve a big goal, like 100 million in the bank, right? It's overwhelming. It's so far away from where we are now. It's just overwhelming. In my lab partner's case in college, if someone had not been there to talk him down off the ledge and to break this large program into small steps, he would have struggled. He would have had anxiety problems getting the work done. So the second thing that can happen is if you divide a big goal into steps that are too big, you can still feel overwhelmed. So you might need to revisit the number of steps and say, I divided this goal into 10 steps. Looks like I'm going to need 50 steps to be able to make progress. And again, you need to take it easy on yourself because there can be setbacks, challenges, surprises, frustrations. And if there are other people involved, you can't control other people. You have to learn how to deal with that element too. So having a big goal is cool. It will improve your life. It's definitely something you should do. Stepwise refinement always works. It always works. You can't necessarily know how long it's going to take, but it always works. If you had asked Warren Buffett how long it would take him to reach $1 billion in net worth, he started in his 20s. I don't think he reached $1 billion in net worth for 30 years. I think it took him like 30 years. I think he was in his 50s before he got there. I don't even think he got to $1 million in net worth until he was in his 30s. I believe it took him that long. So you don't necessarily know in the beginning how long it's going to take, but you should be encouraged if you have a big goal. If you want 100 million in net worth, you can get it. You just have to adopt stepwise refinement. Leave yourself open to adjusting the number and the nature of the steps that you'll have to take to get there and keep working at it. If you feel lazy, if you start feeling lazy because the progress is too slow, then maybe your steps are too small and you need to make the steps a little more ambitious. On the other hand, if you feel overwhelmed by one step, you're going to have to break that down into smaller pieces. For example, if you're trying to get your first 20 repeat customers, Step 1 was to get a first customer. Step 2 was to get a second customer. Step 3, getting 5 customers. Maybe you start that and you say, wait a minute, I can't do this. You revert back to getting a third customer then. You just reduce your expectations, take it easy on yourself. There can be setbacks, challenges, surprises, frustrations, and if there are other people involved that you can't control, you have to deal with that. And above all, you have to be patient, because you're not going to necessarily know when you start on this big goal how long it's going to take. But if it's a big goal and it's worthwhile, and this always works. Stepwise refinement, breaking a big goal into small pieces, always works, even in chaos. That's why I wanted to mention this. If you have a big goal and you have a technique, you will be able to stay engaged as long as you leave yourself open to adjusting the size of each step and the stuff that you're doing in each step along the way. So I hope this helps. And you can't let setbacks, challenges, and surprises be a factor, because when you were learning to read, you have to admit, regardless of where you are and how much success you had in college, some of the things we learned in the early days seemed kind of challenging because they were so foreign. They were so unlike anything we were used to. Going from a 5-year-old surrounded by your parents, maybe in kindergarten, to first grade and learning the alphabet and then words and then sentences, that was pretty foreign, and it might have seemed like a big deal at that time. You look at it now and you think, it's second nature, but you have to not let yourself be frustrated too much, anyways, by surprises that come your way as you're working your steps and trying to get to this big goal. One other thing that can happen, once you attain a big goal, you should not leave yourself open to having nothing more to do. That's one of the things I learned, because I've been applying this process throughout my life once I figured it out. You can get to a point where you achieve a big goal, and then you say to yourself, what's the big deal? What's next? I feel like it's kind of a letdown. That's what can happen. If you achieve a big goal after following a series of steps, you should, as you see yourself getting close to accomplishing it, bam, set a new big goal and create a new series of steps to achieve that big goal. Because I've experienced this. It's a little bit depressing. It can be, not for everyone, but when you achieve a big goal, it can feel like a letdown unless you have a new big goal to work towards. And again, it's the same process. Set a new big goal, divide it into steps, start working on the steps, and this always works, even in chaos. I hope this helps. It's worked very well for me. And if you think about it, it's worked for all of us because we all learned how to read, right? If you have any questions, please post in the comments and I'll try to help. And I really want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.